Now, before we get into this video is sponsored by Games, and today's point of interest is Shadowverse. Now, Shadowverse is a free-to-play digital collectible card video game which is playable both on PC and mobile. This is a game that is heavily focused on strategy, giving you a variety of different classes to choose from, as well as having a good number of cards that comes with a lot of different effects, which makes it very fun to play. On top of the fact that you get free card packs just for completing the tutorial. It also has this amazing anime-style artwork and is fully voiced in English and Japanese for those anime watchers out there. And talking about anime, the developers of this game, Games, is one of the biggest names in anime and gaming in Japan, and it's also very competitive. It's rated very highly in the esports scene, but this is something you definitely want to check out. Again, links will be in the description box down below. Shadowverse, check it out and get playing. But let's get on to this video. Yo, what is up guys, Fer here, and what we're going to be talking about today is secret or hidden top tiers in the One Piece verse, or just characters that are extremely powerful but Oda hasn't introduced these characters yet. Now, these characters don't have to be on equal grounds with the Yonko or the Admirals, but these are characters that I think would give the current top tiers a good fight even if they lose. Now, I find it hard to believe that it's only the Yonkos that are considered to be the very top in the vast world of One Piece, and I feel like this is something not a lot of people are talking about. Now, one of the main reasons that I think there could be more overpowered characters out there is because of the world military draft that happened during the 2-year time skip. And with the military draft, we literally had 2 people come out of nowhere, and these guys are suddenly admiral level individuals, or at least they were strong enough to be recognized as the world government's greatest military powers. Now, even though Fujitora and Green Bull may not be as strong as the previous admiral trio, they have to be pretty relative in power because they hold the same title as an admiral. And I'm guessing to become an admiral, there's probably a bunch of requirements apart from your devil fruit ability, which I will get back to. Now, to become an admiral, I definitely feel like you have to be all-rounded as a fighter. Admirals are usually very versatile. They're relatively proficient in all forms of haki and swordsmanship, and I'm guessing they have years of battle experience. You have to be above the norm to be chosen as an admiral. And so you have Fujitora and Green Bull, who were individuals chosen from the general public, and these guys were acknowledged by the war government to become one of its strongest fighters. That's huge because it makes you wonder if there's actually more people like that in the One Piece world. Now, people usually say Fujitora and Green Bull were given devil fruit powers from the government because people have the idea that the government has ways of getting overpowered fruit abilities, and because of that they became strong enough to be recognized as admirals. Now, that might not necessarily be the case because it seems like these guys already had their fruits before joining the Marines, and this really goes back to what Green Bull said. Now, he said he hasn't eaten in 3 years, which is highly hinted to be his devil fruit ability because Oda loves to tease the ability before he actually shows it. And we know that the world military draft happened 2 years ago, so he already had a devil fruit ability before joining the Marines, and the same could be said about Fujitora. So I think that overpowered abilities like the ones the Admirals and Yonkos have aren't just limited to these characters, but it's also something that other non-relevant characters could have as well. And so I think there should be a lot more individuals in the verse that could rival the current top tiers, and these are people that we aren't aware of yet. They're just not as prevalent as the Yonkos and the Admirals. People are not going to know about you if you haven't done anything relevant, even though you're an extremely strong fighter. Fujitora and Green Bull may be an example of this. So these guys were probably standalones that didn't really stay in the spotlight for them to be noticed. Now, Mihawk also fits in this category in a sense, but he also has a world title, which makes him very noticeable. Being the world's greatest swordsman sort of separates him apart, and he's also known to be someone who clashed with Shanks back in the day, so he does have some relations to the Yonko. Again, there could be a lot of standalone characters that haven't received enough spotlight, and these individuals may be extremely powerful like Fujitora and Green Bull. And this was something I thought we were going to get in Wano, given that Wano is isolated. So I was of the assumption that we were going to get someone who was on the caliber or on the same caliber as Mihawk, or a guy who was just under Mihawk in terms of swordsmanship. And given that the samurai aren't allowed to leave Wano, this means that this person would not be known to the world but only to the people of Wano, because news doesn't get out. And this is why Akainu wasn't eager on sending Kizaru to Wano, because he would have said to himself that we recruited individuals like Fujitora and Green Bull out of nowhere. Is there a chance that Wano could have individuals like that as well? On top of the fact that they didn't have any intel on Wano, and that's why he was so cautious. But so far we haven't actually seen anyone that special yet. Ashura Doji and the Shogun is probably the best we've seen so far, but obviously stronger characters could be introduced given as Wano just started. So there is a potential for a swordsman that is close to Mihawk as we dive deeper into the lore of Wano. And then we have Elbaf. Now Elbaf is also a place of prestige because it was said to be the strongest nation in the world, and that is a title that supersedes Wano, and it makes sense, and here's why. Now even though giants individually haven't been portrayed to be exceptionally strong, as a whole these guys are gonna give anyone issues. An entire civilization of giant is nothing to sneeze at. Now I personally think that there's at least 1 or 2 individuals on Elbaf that can fight a top tier on equal terms. Now I made a video talking about this, but I think we're gonna see giants with devil fruits on Elbaf, mythical zoans, paramecias, and logias. Regardless of what class it is, it's going to be broken if a giant has a devil fruit ability. And I think this is the reason Oda hasn't shown much from giants, because of how overpowered giants would be with a devil fruit. He's shown every other race with a devil fruit except giants. And Big Mom even goes further to say with her powers and that of Elbaf's that they would have the power to defeat the other Yonkos, including Whitebeard, who could have been the strongest Yonko 5 years ago because she referenced him in a different light. And apart from Big Mom getting the power of Elbaf's army, you also need the help of another strong character if you want to topple the other Yonkos. So I think Elbaf definitely had someone whose power is something that Big Mom respects. It could be Loki, Thor, or Odin, given that Elbaf seems to be heavy on Norse mythology, and it would also make sense if the devil fruits were Norse themed as well. So giants, even though they get dismantled every so often, they definitely have some form of hype. Then we have CP0, which are known as the strongest intelligence force within the world government, and there's about 8 members in total, including Rob Lucci, Kaku, Spandam, and Stussy. We actually get to see a new member in the most recent chapter. Now in regards to their power, from all the things we know about, they should be pretty strong given as they are the individuals in charge of taking care of the Revolutionary Army. Even Sabo, who was able to fight Fujitora, avoided the CP0 during Dressrosa. And during the whole Blackbeard and Dragon scuffle at Beltigo, it was stated that they clashed with Blackbeard and chased him away. We have to realize that these guys are essentially the guardians of the Celestial Dragons, and knowing how the Celestial Dragons operate, they would probably want the strongest soldiers and security to protect them. So that's something we have to definitely take into account. And of course we have the Revolutionaries and Dragon, who is arguably one of the strongest characters in the series just based off of his portrayal, but even then there's still a split in the community regarding his strength. He's almost in the same boat as Mihawk, where there isn't a set category to place these guys in. Usually when the term top tier is presented, I think of Yonko and I think of Admirals, but Dragon is almost in a different light from these guys. Not saying that he's above them, but he's definitely not below them either. But seeing as he has 3 commanders, this makes it very obvious that he should be comparable to the Yonko in strength. Now something that a lot of people aren't talking about is the level 6 prisoners who escaped Impel down. Now the whole story is that after Blackbeard made the prisoners fight to death, a good amount of them escaped, and it's definitely something Oda hasn't expanded on either, at least not canon wise anyways. The only sort of follow-up we get in the manga was from John Bard from Dressrosa, who was a bounty hunter, and he was trying to capture the prisoners that escaped. Now interestingly, he did say that he knows where they are, but apart from that, the other form of follow-up was Burundi World special that came out years ago, which was during Luffy's training with Rayleigh, which happened sometime during the time skip, and we learned that World was actually one of the prisoners that escaped Impel down because of Blackbeard. And the other one was from a game, and it was a character called Redfield, and just like World, he escaped Impel down at the same time as well. And this guy is actually more interesting because he actually has a mythical vampire devil fruit ability, but again it's non-canon and it's from a game, so it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of One Piece and the canon material that we have in the story. Apart from that, we actually never got anything else in the canon story, but given that the guys that escaped were from level 6, that should automatically put them on the same caliber as Blackbeard's Yonko commanders at the very least. And there's also a high possibility that even stronger individuals escaped and have made their way into the new world. I think sooner or later we're eventually gonna meet 1 or 2 individuals from level 6, and maybe the Lurking Legend could be tied to all of this as well, or maybe even the Rock Pirates. So there's definitely some potential with what Oda can do with this plot line, because Oda has the chance to introduce some old generation characters characters that could leeway us to more information to what happened during the old era. And I think it's about time we get some information about Scopper Gaban. Him showing up in Wano is definitely a possibility. But how do you guys feel about more top tiers being introduced to the story? Do you think we're gonna get more characters like Fujitora and Green Bull, who are just standalone characters that aren't really affiliated with, you know, the Yonkos and the Marines, are just strong? Comment down below what you guys think. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you folks later. Peace.